everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today I pick up once again by Jake, Aaron, like always, Fluff.
Oh, what's going on, y'all?
Yo, yo.
What's up, beautiful people?
And today is our finals. We got both Aaron and Fluff back once again. Aaron is playing the cooler while Fluff is bringing us Goku GT. There's buttons down below. Feel free to click there. They're there for a reason. Let's get today's matchup.
So before you guys get into this, in my mind, these are two of the best decks out of Ultimate Squad? Is that the name?
Yeah.
Ultimate Squad, yeah. And I'm really excited to see this matchup.
Yeah, I was nervous about this matchup.
I sat down from across from him, and he just had this like look on his face, like, ugh. All right, let's get this over with. So, yeah, I agree. I think that the GT, I think GT and Cooler are the best, and it's not necessarily even because of like all of the cards in both archetypes, but I think it's just the surrounding like staples that go in that kind of like the difference of status. Like it's like that card was made for the spaceship. Like dormant. Being able to dormant on turn one for free, basically with Cooler if you need to. Like a lot of these things make these two decks even more playable than the archetypes already are.
Yeah, usually outside support from elsewhere in the game, is one of the things that gets me the most excited about playing a deck, and both of these decks have a lot of potential to reach into the game's history and find some older tech.
Absolutely. So GT is a deck that likes to load cards under its unison while manipulating its marker count and basically establishing a high marker amount unison. I believe on this turn, I get the unison up to 6 markers on turn 1, which is really good. If I had an 8-drop in hand, I could take it up to 7 and awaken on turn 1.
Yeah, getting to go second with GT really puts that unison off to the races. Sometimes when you go first, you don't really get as much momentum, and then your opponent can kind of like crack back with attacks, immediately and try and kill it out. But if you go second, that unison is up and running.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I did, once turn 2 even got, I looked over and it's like, okay, 6 markers. There's not even any point in attacking. And so, which is really good for any of the red players because everything is going to be live all game. Wolfang's going to be live. Merciless Barrage is going to be live. It really is tough to go again.
Yeah, the whole concept behind this deck is to tap out aggressively, and then every negate and responsive card that you have is free. None of it costs you an energy. It might cost you something out of life to activate, but it doesn't cost you an open energy. So you want to be responding to your opponent's plays with free effects thanks to having the unison on the field, and it's almost an unfair thing.
It feels really like this deck, playing against this deck feels really like you're kind of just playing your game on easy mode because everything costs 1 energy or nothing. And so like you were playing all these cards and it's just like man, like you're just doing whatever you want to do. And you didn't even like, you and I talked about it after the game, you didn't even really draw that well over the course of the game. And you were still kind of able to play the game the way that GT wants to play, and so it's really nice to be able to.
Yeah, Red has really kind of found itself as like the free play color nowadays. It's still got access to a copy of that Piccolo New Ruler, I think the card is. Yamcha's a 15k battler. The Cyberman tokens from testing the opposition have combo power, so Red's got a lot of potential to just shotgun stuff to the board and really advantage these incremental effects that he can activate for 1.
Yeah, and you don't see it in this game, but there's like Red is so good at, especially in the way that the game has transitioned in the last year, to where barrier is fewer and further between than it's ever been since it became a rule. Red is probably the best color in the game for clearing the board as well. So not only can you establish free things, but you can also keep your opponent's board really low with a ton of good minus effects.
Yeah, you all had talked earlier in the night about the dream of a turn 2 play that you had against Bancroft, where you got to board out your Zamas. So one of the things that I kind of committed to myself was that anytime you resolved and put a charismatic on field, I was going to have a way to pop the charismatic and completely make that Zamas dead for you. So I wasn't going to give you the opportunity to put that indestructible card out, even though I could probably neg it out over the course of a turn. I don't want to deal with even having to discard 1 or 2 cards off of it.
Yeah, one of the best things about that card is that not only does it make you have to discard cards when I swing with it, but it also makes you dedicate more resources just to get rid of it. So really, it's not just a discard 1; it's discard 2 or 3 or 4 even over the course of a couple of turns.
Right.
Yeah, and here you see he just rose it. Like he kind of read your plan after that last turn, and I think that just goes to show that even though Aaron's been out of the game for a little while, his skills are still pretty sharp. Where he sees that the charismatic was removed, and he's just not even going to go for the Zamasu plan.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
It was actually cheeky of me because I told him flat out, I was like, I'm not letting charismatic hit the field.
I was going to say, I wish it was my skills, but Fluff literally told me, like, that's never going to land. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah.
What a mind freak.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. He was like, mind games. And so, I held on to it, like, just like hoping. But then I also thought, like, okay, I was having a hard time establishing unisons, and I wasn't drawing any. And so I didn't think that I was going to be able to. I didn't want to like be stuck with a charismatic in hand without a unison, and then be stuck with Zamasu in hand as well when I wasn't able to draw or establish unison. So I probably would have wrote it next turn anyway. But when he looked at me and was like, charismatic's not sticking, right? I was like, okay.
I should have taken the sign that you weren't climbing your unison chain frequently as maybe an indicator for me to gun the unison on one turn and try to kill. So I was digging for an 8-drop, and my plan was to board the 8-drop and then gun your unison down.
I was honestly surprised that you didn't do that and I was hoping that you wouldn't, because I only have the salsa in hand right now, and I think it's the only one I see for a long time. And so if you had machine gunned this one down, I probably would have just scooped, honestly.
The problem is I can't find an 8-drop. We're now 3
dormants in.
Yeah, we're 3 turns in, and I haven't seen a single 8-drop, which is pretty weird. What is really weird for GT. Like, I don't think I've ever had a game where I didn't have the 8-drop by turn 3.
It just goes to show how good the archetype is, that you don't hit your bomb and you're able to fight through a couple of turns of dormant. And
I just realized you discarded dormant off of dormant. That's rough.
Yeah, well, the thing is like I didn't really have, like I said, my hand size was pretty low, and I didn't have, and that's one thing too. And you'll see in my deck profile, I actually took a few cards out and put in some draw apes, because like being just like dormanting and then discarding draw apes and then going into the next turn, all of my unisons cost 1 energy. So if I'm really desperate, I can dormant, discard a draw ape, then the next turn just tap 1 and then get the 4 or 5 markers I need on my unison, and then use the draw apes. I think if I had the draw apes in, the deck would have played a lot better. But yeah, my hand was just rough.
You have that old school mentality in the game where really draw apes have really fallen out of favor in the meta. But your mind is still in that old school place where, like, you recognize the deck needs some type of help, and your solution is an older card. And I think that's just like, it's kind of genius in its own way.
I mean,
where
surprise attack Frieza's on the board right now.
yeah, absolutely. And I was so afraid of that crit.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I mean, what I wanted to do with this deck, and Jake hasn't seen my profile, so Jake, what it is the surprise attack Frieza, the 4-drop, the King Cold promo that costs 1 less for each unison, and then the that 4-drop cooler that from this new set. My secret rare is actually Xeno Cell, and I hit it. I hit it all the time
Oh,
because the surprise attack is free. The cooler is a 1-drop, and the that King Cold plays on my opponent's turn, and so I Xeno Cell almost every game with no problem. And
that's a
so
really interesting direction to take it.
yeah,
That's
when I've
awesome.
played it, thanks. Yeah, when I've played it, no one has been expecting it. Everyone expects either the baby whatever, the baby Majin Buu whatever, or Pan. Everyone keeps telling me and keeps expecting I'm going to play Pan, and so it's caught a few people off guard. And yeah, it's hard for me to get out of that mindset from old school because it's been about a year since I've played, and then even before that, it had been 6 or 7 months since I had played. So when I got out of the game the last time, the draw apes were like $100, and so now that they're just like a quarter, I just looked to that as something that would be easy to just throw in, and with Dormant being a discard fodder, it makes it that much easier.
So you're telling me you didn't have the courtesy conversation with every other player you played with, but me?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
No,
it
that's
didn't
just
really come.
it's just a joke.
You got to drop it on somebody, right?
We said that we didn't mention our matchup, but we said that you're like O for Z, and I'm like no.
Yeah, well, and I didn't even know what yours did. You could have told me it was Super Mirror, and I'd have been like, okay.
I was just like, yeah, it's
So, but
Mira. You're like, what?
looking across the board here, I have removed so many battle cards from this board, and every time I swing, there's a testing, or there's a Yamcha, or there's a Wolfang, and so Fluff is being really patient here. What was going through your mind here, man? Like you're seeing me not really do anything.
the
Like what's
the big thing is I'm seeing your hand dwindle. And
yeah.
so I'm not in any rush to attempt to close the game out. I'm not going to get antsy. This is like my second or third turn playing under fucking Dormant. So I'm not being in any rush to clear the game. If you had the dual attack triple strike Frieza, it would have already hit the field.
Right.
So all I have to do is just be patient. You're going to eventually run out of dormants. You're going to eventually run out of the ability to combo through my attacks. So all I have to do is just chill.
Yeah, and with the trunks having barrier, and then with you just like safely having stuff under the spaceship, it's almost one of those things. Like now that I've played against this deck, I would probably side a little bit more aggro in the next time I play against GT because I think one of the things that you can do against it is I think you can machine gun it pretty quick before you get a bunch of stuff established under the spaceship. And so I don't know. I mean, what do you think? What's the decks like? When you sit down across from someone, what do you not want to see?
If they can kill your unison pretty immediately, that's a problem. But if you can get it to 4 or 5 markers and you have any kind of defense in your hand, it's really easy to keep alive.
Yeah. The unison is really easy to save unless someone is playing something like the Kai, which just gets rid of the unison, or the Finn Union Absorber, which just takes it off the field. If I'm going against GT, one thing that I think that I would do, regardless of what color that I'm playing, is playing reactively to the field that they're building. Because if you look at its individual cards, its cards individually aren't that big of a threat. There's like a 15,000 crit. There's a 15,000 barrier. I think there's a 20,000 or a 15,000 blocker. There's a 20,000 single strike. Like the cards aren't like dual attack, double strike, you know. But what they do very well is they flood the field extremely well. So anything that I'm looking at playing, I'm looking at cheap, easy ways to blow their field out as fast as they're blowing mine out.
And that's another strength of like the GT line is they all have some kind of minusing effect when they come into play. So most cards, even the indestructible Zamasu, will be affected by that. Even if they're not killed, they're shrunk down to a size where they're less relevant in combat, and then that makes the GT cards just a little bit more oppressive on the turn they come in.
First round of this tournament, I had a game against Universe 7 where I basically turned Universe 7's strategy against itself, where I out-controlled them and outgunned them with GT. But if I'm the U7 player, instead of being the aggressor, I put myself on the back foot and I start responding to what GT is doing, because Universe 7 has better removal than GT has. And it has more consistent removal. So I'm going to be removing their field as they're building it. And then you basically have to play through those free negates in the hand. There's not a clean way to do that. You just have to do it.
Yeah, and U7 has access to a lot of those as well, like testing and like King Vegeta's imposing presence and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
After this game, it's funny because I was trying to think about, okay, as a cooler player, because this is going to be what I main for this format. I thought, well, what can I do to handle some of a board like this? And it's actually, so I was talking to Bancroft about it earlier, that the 4-drop Majin Vegeta, the Super Saiyan 3 Majin Vegeta unison that blows up the board.
Yep.
And so I've decided to main board that. And I think that's an answer. I think that board wipes are something that GT might have a problem with as well. And so I was looking at ways to deal with it. I don't know of anything else in green that would do it as well as that.
It definitely slows them down. A piece that I really like in green for removal, especially against this deck, that I'm running the Merciless Barrage Yamcha, is in set 10, there was a card called Blue Impulse. And if your opponent plays a battle card during your turn, for 1 energy, you get to wipe the field.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Blue Impulse is really solid. Another good option for the cooler player is if you do draw into your Frieza unison, you just hold it until they play their big 8-drop, or even this secret rare. And when they go to swing at you, you just go ahead and plop the Frieza down and blow up the board.
This was kind of a dirty interaction.
Yeah.
Aaron asked me what the Vegeta did, and I explained what Vegeta did. I don't know if you heard me wrong or what, but I swing with it. You negate that attack. I don't have Sparking 25, so I don't get the dual attack. So I swung with the Trunks, put a Kai on it, and comboed my hand out. You were on 3 life, and you had to take that damage.
Yeah.
And then all I had to do is resolve the Vegeta. I don't know what you heard.
Yeah, you said if this what I heard is this Vegeta deals 2 damage, you get wrecked. And so I had a shocking death ball and a another negate in hand. So when you swung with the Trunks, all I had to do was spark the shocking death ball, and the turn would have been over because you were under dormant. And so, or not under dormant, you had nothing else to attack and you were tapped out. And so it was one of those things where it was like, it's like a learning moment. I looked at the next couple cards in my deck, and I was 3 cards away from my boss monster. And so would it have really meant anything? Probably not. I don't think it would have. I think it would have just prolonged the inevitable.
I threw it down on the table. I threw it down on the table, but I did have a King Piccolo New Ruler in hand. So there was another double strike following that Trunks attack anyway.
I don't think I lost that turn.
You were pretty dead to rights that turn. And just, and that was kind of the moment where, my patience had paid off. Your hand was dwindled to like 4 cards, and that was the time to kill.
Yeah. I didn't charge energy for 2 turns because of my hand. So you played it really well. I didn't draw, but you also have to play correctly through me not hitting what I'm drawing and not make mistakes. So that was a great game.
Yeah, thank you.
So with that being said, thank you for your opportunity in today's video. Keep in mind, just buttons down below and on the screen while Fluff does the outro.
We're having a ton of fun with Ultimate Squad. Let us know in the comments below. What decks are you guys messing around with on Ultimate Squad? But as always, read your cards, know your plays, let us make the mistakes so that you don't have to, and fluff out.